What is up, Hexkins and Pulsechainers? Welcome back to another video. Here are some Pulsechain updates. First off, guys, this PayPay token, I do not advise you buy it. The first 4 days it launched, it did a 1000x. I found out about it when it was around 2, so about 4x below this. It's up 100% on the day today. Let me know if you guys got into PayPay, but I've just been keeping an eye on it. Maybe it's the next Shiba, maybe it's not, but these meme tokens are gambling, so always keep that in mind. An interesting clip here. Talking about the Bitcoin founder. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below.
If you have Bitcoin, sell half, keep half. This is the top. Nobody listened to me. If you knew who was really behind Bitcoin, you would run as fast as you fucking could to sell it. I know. 100%. If you knew who owned Bitcoin or who started Bitcoin, and you had Bitcoin, you couldn't sleep at night. I know. 100%. And when the real founder of Bitcoin comes out, it is my humble opinion, and there's nothing humble about me, Bitcoin will go to fucking zero.
So I say the faster Bitcoin dies, the faster real crypto can thrive. It has a failed white paper. It's been co-opted by different organizations, and it'll never be peer-to-peer payments. The founder of Bitcoin, Satoshi Nakamoto, that's a Japanese name, okay? Look up what Satoshi means in Japanese, and then look up what Nakamoto means in Japanese. And I'm not even going to tell you what it means. I hope you look it up because it's very interesting, and maybe that will point you towards more who the founder of Bitcoin is. Yeah, very fascinating stuff. And Richard Hart tweeted this out: Ethereum $7 to send an ERC20 right now. And then 30 minutes later, it was up to $8. He says Pulsechain can't come soon enough. We're not here to take Ethereum's wind out of its sails. We're just here to help it. It's like building another lane on a highway. A great analogy Richard uses a lot. If you have a gas station on a corner and it's totally filled up all the time, what do? You build another gas station across the street. That's what we're doing with Pulsechain. Ethereum, the blocks are filled up. These fees are absurd, and Ethereum adoption's only accelerating. So we don't need to steal Ethereum's progress. We just need to build another gas station on the corner because Ethereum can't scale fast enough. This guy says, calling it now, Pulsechain launches this week. I'm not here to give you any launch predictions. You can let me know when you think it'll launch in the comment section below, but it does seem very close. A good tweet here from your friend Somni, okay? Says, go back and watch my earlier videos on Hex price predicting around the Pulsechain launch. This is high speculation with no evidence, but it's spooky how accurate and correct I was. My times in the video I said, if I was a pet duck named Greg and I wanted to make E-Hex and P-Hex succeed, I would use my wallets to sell before the Pulsechain snapshot. Why? Because that means nobody who buys for the snapshot is able to profit as a trader. If they sell E-Hex, it has to be for a deep loss. And it's into stronger hands who buy it. No free lunch. This is how you rinse hands, and then we can be pumped up much higher for a clean price pump upwards. If you check the Hex chart, it looks exactly like this happened. Everyone bought at 8 cents to 12 cents for the testnet V3 snapshot. And then coincidentally, it becomes testnet 4 and we're down 60%. Don't think this is a coincidence. How did I predict this months ago? My message is meant to be interpreted as bullish because it means we are going much higher. The Hex staker class sits idle by, collecting yield and waiting in the passage of time. People who give up and sell will end up getting wrecked. We hold to 2025, all part of the plan, Hex to $2 and higher. And that's a pretty conservative price estimate. The all-time Hex price, all-time high was 56 cents, give or take a few pennies. And so Hex to $2 is just 4xing that price. And if you look at Hex back in 2020, really early days of Hex, no one thought it would run up to 56 cents as quick as it did. So $2 Hex price is really not out of the cards. And this kind of supports that. Richard Hart saying, I hope Pulsechain surprises people like Hex did. This guy cares about his legacy. A lot of people can't see past his old personality, his boastful personality, but he cares about the stuff he builds, and that's one of the reasons I'm so bullish on Pulsechain. when you invest in cryptos, and I can't tell you where to put your money, but you want to look at, is there value in this token? Like, does it solve a problem? And who are the founders? I think those are the two most important details to look at. And Richard Hart is obviously not a founder we should bet against. He has a track record, and the value proposition of something like Pulsechain has been done before. One Harmony, Avalanche, Binance Smart Chain, Polygon, except we are launching with a massive community of hexagons. A lot of these other projects that succeeded, that help Ethereum scale, like Pulsechain, did not have a massive community at day one. And Richard tweeted out, validators like better rewards. On the left, version 3, when there was less incentive to be a validator, you earn less money. There was only 4,000 validators. Version 4, we have almost 30% more validators, 5,000 validators. And that's probably because there's more of an incentive to be a validator now. You're earning more money. I covered this in the last video, but withdrawals have successfully been activated on Pulsechain testnet version 4. This was the Shanghai update to Ethereum that allows Ethereum validators who staked their 32 Ethereum to withdraw. You now can withdraw on Pulsechain. And a lot of people were speculating the launch was getting pushed back because we were waiting for this Ethereum update that we knew was coming, because we don't want to have Pulsechain launch and validators can't withdraw their tokens. All right. If you guys made it this far in the video, comment testnet version 4. Thank you for giving me 5-6 minutes of your day. And I want to leave you with this clip from Richard Hart. It's not a guy that really agrees with much about what he's saying, but it's one of those clips where Richard's brilliance shines brightly.
Have you ever got one of these predictions right in the past? I mean, if they put you on TV, I assume so.
Yeah. I mean, the big ones, we've nailed almost all of them. My biggest problem, Richard, to be very honest, since they started printing money nonstop in late 2008, and basically the central banks took over the economy and just blasted out the natural cycles, it's been much harder for me. I'm only kind of catching up now to how to incorporate all this stimulus and measure when it's having diminishing returns. But the biggest calls I made were in the late 80s. 1989, I came in my first book and said, Japan is going to collapse in the 90s. And back then, Japan looked like China today. The up-and-coming country could do no wrong. They were urbanizing. They were catching up, taking over U.S. and European industries. And just, and I said, no, I'm sorry. They're at the peak of their demographic wave, the baby boom there, which came earlier. And the U.S. and Europe are just getting into it. So we're going to have the big boom in the 90s, and they're going to collapse.
Right.
And I was predicting a Dow of 10,000 by 2000, and that's when it was 2,000 to 3,000, and people said, Harry, you are a certified nut.
So
that was the first big one.
So I think the two most productive things I could do is, one, try and tease out why you think everything's going to crash, and then I'll play devil's advocate. I think that's the best way to go. So, let's assume everything that you say is right for fun, and stock market's going to drop 80 or 90%. I've heard you say, or at least I've seen in the titles of other videos that you've been on, that you say Bitcoin's going to go to zero.
No, not to zero. Now, I look at Bitcoin differently than most people. It is not an inflation hedge. You want an inflation hedge, get gold. And inflation is the wrong thing to hedge against in this winter season, by the way, which is deflationary. It is not a safe haven. You want a safe haven? Buy a 30-year treasury bond that will not default no matter what and will benefit from deflation and falling interest rate. What Bitcoin is, much more important, it's the harbinger of a whole new technology cycle, which I call it Internet 2.0. Internet was the first cycle for how to distribute information bottoms up around the world efficiently. Bitcoin and blockchain, more importantly, are about the digitization of all financial assets and money. That is more important than information, if you can calculate it, especially in monetary terms. So I see it in its early stages, like the dot-coms. Why do I think Bitcoin's going to crash? Because it's bubbled up out of nothing, and it's not really worth that much yet. But it is the potential standard for a whole new digital blockchain version of money, and a whole different way of valuing and monitoring and trading and dealing with financial assets, which everybody has to do. And so it is the next big thing. I see it literally, Richard, following the internet, the dot-com surges, which bubbled up into early 2000, crashed, including Amazon. You see Amazon today, right? Is it a great company? Is it dominate the world? It was a new emerging company. It bubbled up to 136 from 6 in that bubble and then crashed 95% back to 6. Now it's at 3,500 or what, okay? I see Bitcoin and blockchain on that same trajectory, early stage bubble, which, by the way, for me, confirms this is the next big thing. Biotech and other major new technology. You look at 3D printing, just name them all. None of them has bubbled like Bitcoin and blockchain. Only the internet and .com stocks bubbled that much, which was saying they were the next big thing. What most people didn't expect, if you don't study cycles like me and technologies and how they merge, is that first bubble will get overvalued tremendously because people see the future and not realize it's going to take 10 to 20 years to get there. So I think Bitcoin's about to crash back to maybe 3, 4, 5,000 and then go to 500,000 or more. That's what I see.
I would say that historically, every 10 years or so, you get a dip in the stock market, and cycles do exist. But those cycles...
Every 40 years, you get much bigger ones. Look at that one. Even more clear.
Which is also why you get the rioting in the streets as well, because the kids forget how shitty things can be, whereas the people that have been to war enjoy their peace a little bit more than those that have never seen it get bad. So I understand the super cycles concept and the generational effect that is, wrought upon the economy. So the problem I have with bears in general is that, one, they're all extinct. The only people that have made it in the market...
Exactly. That's why you should listen to the last few standing. That's exactly what bubbles do. Extinguish all the bears till there's not one left, and then they crash and take everybody down in the Titanic. That's exactly the insight. You wouldn't expect many bears to be surviving at this point. If you did, you'd be saying the bubble's not over yet, if you understand bubbles.
Well, the thing is, so everything that you're saying can be... You're not trading markets against a real currency. You're trading markets against a fake currency, which is backed by nothing. Because the trading pair that you're trading...
Bitcoin is backed by what? What is Bitcoin backed by?
Well, the same thing that all the other markets
You're saying
are
that's a true currency, right? I'm assuming.
No,
they're all backed by? It's an invisible coin backed by not even
just
gold.
Like the
has
dollar.
Some intrinsic value.
Well, gold is down from 10 years ago today.
Yeah, and I've been predicting that, by the way. I'm a gold bear.
Okay. Well, then you got wrecked this year, but it's back down from 10 years ago.
I don't predict it every day, Richard. Don't hold me to stupid stuff. Like, don't even think of saying something stupid like that to me. Doesn't mean I'm bearish every week, every month.
Well, just tell me your time frame.
I've been telling people say gold, they think we're going to have an inflation crisis out of printing endless money, and I'm saying no. The printing is to offset deflation, and gold is an inflation hedge, not a deflation hedge. That's why I'm bearish on gold, and gold is going to go lower in the next few years. Mark my words on that. That's what I'll leave it
Sure.
at.
Like, I think Warren Buffett gets a lot of things right. And one of the things that he gets
like what?
Right...
Like what?
He's occasionally the richest guy in the world, which isn't
he started investing in 74 in a nutless monkey. I hate to say it, could have made almost as much money if you started then.
But no one did. I mean...
That was at the bottom of the stock market of our entire lifetimes. Whoever started there, which he did, that's when he really started investing seriously, would have done very, very well just with any bullish bias. I'm not saying he's a good investor. I don't say he's the fountain of wisdom. I don't think he understands anything about economics and cycles.
Well,
nothing.
He doubled the S&P 500's returns for 40 years.
Because he's a value investor. Good. That's what's good about him.
Yeah. And so I don't do the hero worship thing. I just pick the snippets that I think are useful. So in this case, the snippet that I think is useful is that if you take all of the world's productive assets and you divide up their ownership amongst people, and then that's like one universe. And then you have this other universe where you take up all the world's productive assets, and then you add, quote, active managers that try and derive extra yield somehow magically. The productive stuff is still just the productive stuff, and the people that own it are still just the people that own it. And that extra class of people pretending to add value doesn't actually add any value.
Right.
And so his statement was that non-actively managed index funds would outperform actively managed funds over 10 years. And he made like $1 million bet on it, and he was right. And so for me, it's the same with health insurance. Health insurance providers do not treat anyone. They are not doctors. They do not treat you. What they do is steal a third of the money that could have been used for treatment for bureaucracy. They don't do a fucking thing. They don't develop new medicine. They don't deploy new medicine. Everything sucks because they exist. So
they're there if you need an extreme amount of money, which most people don't. And you know how much savings most people have, don't you? That's the only thing they provide. I agree with it. It's not enough compared to what that they're taking.
So my point is that like there's these ways to make systems more efficient by cutting out people that pretend they're doing work, but they're really not doing anything. And so insurance companies are one of those things. And some of finance is that. The active management is that by and large.
Yeah, we would be just fine with no active management. I agree with you. It doesn't add any real value long term.
Well, particularly when you've got a democratization of signals, as you have said. I mean, you went to Harvard, so you're a pretty smart dude, but you still are an armchair, became an economist just because you had to, because everyone else was so bad at it. Yeah. I mean, economists, if you want to talk about people that can't make any damn money in the market, economists cannot make any money in the market. They get wrecked left and right.
Richard, never had sex, never run a business.
Yeah, there you go.
They're smart people, but those two things tell you why they don't understand real life.
Yeah, but they
consumers
think
drive our economy. They wouldn't know a consumer if they fell on them.
Yeah, I hear you. So the point that I'm getting to is when the government is willing to do something that they've never done before, which is actual help. Like people have always rumored like, oh, helicopter money. We actually have helicopter money now. They've inflated the M2, which is a measurement of free capital in the system, the kind of dollars that are available. 80% of all dollars that exist were printed in the last year or two. It's a big deal. And so when that money that's being printed has to land somewhere, period. And it's landing, so the rich are going to get richer, the poor are going to get poorer. Your wages aren't going to go up. You're going to lose your jobs.
Do you know where it's landing? It's not going into the economy. It's not.
No, it's going into GDP, it's going into anything you can invest in.
It's going into financial assets, which you're right, are owned 80% by the top 10% and mostly by the top 0.1 to 1%. You're exactly right. It makes the rich richer, adds nothing to the economy other than they're spending more money.
Right,
and
they're getting
the
more.
top 10% are almost 40% of GDP, so they're more than they sound like spending. Other than that wealth effect on spending, and that's artificial. It's not. You're right. It's not adding anything. That's why bubbles need to burst. They're unproductive uses and diversions of money. And everybody's in the stock market. Everybody's a day trader now. Everybody's a real estate flipper. Those are not productive assets. And guess what? I've got a measure for what you're saying, Richard, and I'm going to give it to you afterwards, okay? Money velocity. Mm-hmm. Money velocity tells you when money's being invested productively and then reinvested, and when it's not, and it's going more into unproductive investments or speculation. Guess how long money velocity has been crashing in most countries around the world?
Well, it's
since the mid to late 1990s, since all these bubbles started.
Well, it's a function of interest rate. So when they they literally raise interest rates to reduce money velocity, to make it harder to get money, to lower prices so prices don't rise. So like if
no, I'm disagreeing with you. It's actually the opposite. They have pushed interest rates increasingly lower, so money's free. So when something's free, it gets abused. People just speculate with it. It's easy.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like the
lower interest rates have caused that, not higher. Yeah.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Money velocity is totally consistent with falling interest rates, artificially below what inflation rates would say they should.
I agree with everything.
Which is easily measured.
Yes, I agree with all that. I was saying that when the Fed wants to stop and slow down the money velocity, to slow down rising prices, they increase interest rates to suck money out of the economy to get it locked into savings accounts. And they do the opposite when they want to flood the market with activity to try and make up for a pandemic or whatever they feel like they need to make up for. Then they reduce interest rates to zero, and in some countries negative, which is hilarious. So
And then let me just that is what I would describe as the maybe single most unproductive function in the entire economy. I think we would do just fine with no central banks, period, except emergency funds when you get in a real crisis short term. All they do is tinker with the economy and jerk people around and do all this stuff and add not only no value, but more volatility, which actually takes value out.
But there's hidden upside to the American populace from this. So when
Like
when America is the reserve currency of the world and has debt and trade imbalances with other countries, when they devalue the dollars that they owe other people, they just pay them back with fake money, and then we get more for nothing. Like when the Asians are willing to work 16 hours a day, 6 days a week, someone benefits from that, and it's everyone else that's getting their products, iPhone users, right? So like the first world and the rich people is sucking the life out of the poor people in the third world through this inflationary tactics. The rich get richer, the poor get poorer. Everything, if you're a high school graduate and you want to buy your house, you're fucked. You're not going to ever be able to buy a house, ever.
Exactly. Another good reason for a bubble to burst. So the millennials will be able to afford to buy a house in the future. They have no chance of making money on stocks at these rates or buying a house and making money.
I just don't think they're going to let it burst. I think they'd rather see the value of the dollar.
Okay, Richard, then let's play this forward, okay? The bubble keeps going up, up, up. Have you noticed the trajectory of it? It's called exponential. You think the market can double and double and double and double so that it's worth right now, financial assets, by the way, I just quote you a real number, 6.5 times global GDP, stocks, bonds, and real estate.
Yeah, sure.
6.5 times. You know what normal is?
You know that's the Warren Buffett indicator you're quoting, right?
It's one of them.
Yeah, but it's called the Warren Buffett indicator, the ratio of stock prices to GDP.
I don't care, Richard. I don't care. You want to give him all the credit. You want to listen to him. He's going to tell you.
I don't. He
never
doesn't
go
understand
wrong
crypto.
Buying U.S. large cap stocks, and he's going to be wronger than rain. I will say that today. If I'm wrong, tar and feather me.
He's gotten some things wrong.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
you want to listen to him. He's been so successful so long, he has no possible way to have perspective. Success makes you complacent. Failure is the way people learn the fastest. I don't know if you've learned that, but I've certainly learned more from my ass kicking than my ass kissing in life. Okay?
I think it might be
agree
like
or not.
A valley.
The audience can agree or not with me on that one.